Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Greg DuCharme, joined today by Mark Immelman, and we're covering the first round action of the Travelers Championship. Mark, what'd you make of the action today? Well, first of all, welcome.
Thanks, man. Good to be with you guys again. It's been a while. I feel like I've been jaunting around the country in the
Yeah,
PGA
what have you,
Tour bubble, and it's nice to sort of settle down and get to watch golf on a monitor. Being in the studio was fun, as opposed to being outside with one group. And the action, it was sort of what I've expected. That's a great golf course, the TPC River Highlands, and we've seen a bunch of low scores over there. And when in the morning time you can get after the place, and a few guys did, so that was fun to watch. And then I just enjoyed the afternoon guys, staying in the thick of the things, because typically the wind picks up there in the afternoon, and we saw Xander get it as deep as 8 under, and we saw Victor Hovland playing well. So it's going to be a sprint, and so it was fun seeing that today, and it's going to be really fun over the weekend, that's for certain.
well, speaking of a sprint, one player in particular got off to a Usain Bolt-like start. That was Mackenzie Hughes. He shoots a 60. He closed with 5 straight birdies on the front 9, makes the turn at 6 under. And he didn't even really take full advantage of the only 2 par 5s. He made a birdie on the 13th, but only a par at the 6th. And he's coming off a 78 in his Sunday round at Harbortown. Are you surprised to see a 60, but not only just to see the score of 60, a 60 from Mackenzie Hughes?
Well, he's a heck of a player, Mackenzie. You don't win on the PGA Tour by accident. And he won a few years ago at the RSM Classic down at Seaside, which is a daunting place from tee to green. So to win there with some swirling, gusty breezes in November, when it can be chilly, you've got to have some game. And so he's proved that. But he's the sort of guy that will play great for a bit and then just disappear for a while, and then play great for a bit again and then disappear. And it looks like he's still, sort of finding his identity on the PGA Tour. And this week, are you surprised at 60? Heck yes. He's coming after 78. Absolutely. But it's the kind of place where if you're playing well, and let's not forget, he had 3 rounds in the 60s at the Heritage. Now, granted, the scores were off the charts there too, but he shot 3 solid rounds. And so there must have been something worthwhile, because Heritage can trip you up very quickly if you're missing shots off the tee, certainly, and it certainly will grab you around the greens because they're so small. So there had to be something brewing. So you get to a place where you get on a bit of a roll, and he did. All of a sudden, what's happened in the past means absolutely nothing. And what happens in the future starts to become a thing, because he referenced the fact he was thinking of 59, that magical sub-60 number. So the past, to me, doesn't define PGA Tour players. And the guys that can really ride the wave while they're going well, that's who they are. And he showed that he could do that today.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, that was really impressive coming down the stretch. And it was really, he did it largely with the putter. He gained, I think it was 4.993 strokes gained putting on the field, 143 feet of putts made for the day. To put that in perspective, Rory McIlroy made, I think it was 63 feet of putts today, which, I mean, that is a stark contrast. So it makes you wonder, yes, impressive round, a 60, he'll be in the mix for at least a couple more days, if not right up there till the very end. I mean, that's a 10 under in 1 round is an extremely nice start. But when you see a player kind of shoot that score early and it's so heavily weighted on the putter, you worried about staying power at all?
I don't know. I mean, to me, to contend in a PGA Tour event, you've got to get by one bad day. And what you'll probably see tomorrow is that after the first couple hours of play, Mackenzie will not be the hunted anymore. He will be the hunter, because one of the 6, 7 guys who played this afternoon will get busy in the morning when the conditions are ripe. So, he may sort of disappear and he'll fall from the radar, but he won't fall very far. I'd be very surprised after that start if there'd be a very bad day. But something to point out is that when he won the RSM Classic, he shot 61 in the first round there. And that's also a past 70 golf course. And he hung around and he finished the thing off. So apparently he can stay around for 4 rounds when things are going his way. So I don't see him going away. Now, does he win? Who knows? If I knew that, I'd be leading our one and done league. But I feel like he hits the ball well enough. Like 15 of 18 greens around here is good. and he hits the ball well enough to give himself looks. And if he just keeps giving himself that, he's got a 3-stroke start. So if he just keeps on picking off birdies one at a time, and he sort of makes a goal of 20 under par, if you will, if he shoots that, he's going to be in the thick of things Sunday. That's for sure.
And he's been in the thick of it before. You mentioned a win at the RSM. He was in the mix at the Honda Classic earlier this year with Sung Jae Im. I mean, he made some real fireworks on Sunday on the back nine. So he's a player who's not afraid to win. He's not afraid to go shoot a good score. He's just got to stay out of his own way. Basically, he's got to go play one shot at a time. It's so cliche, right? The old adage, one shot at a time. But he has to avoid thinking, okay, I have the lead. I got to keep the lead. Feeling all that extra pressure. If he just focuses on the task at hand, he clearly has the game to do it.
Yeah, and the thing about him physically is he hits a very heavy ball. He plays with a strong club face throughout his golf swing. He hits a thing hard. I mean, he doesn't swing hard, but the ball gets struck, and it cuts through the wind very well. So when you start getting some late tee times, and he's going to have 3 in a row, if everything goes to plan, and the wind kicks up, it'll play into his favor. It's just, you've got to get by those moments on the greens when you've got that 4 or 5 footer to keep the momentum going. If he can rattle those babies down, then he's on his way.
Well, I wonder if there'll be any effect on the next player we got to talk about. Right behind him is Rory McIlroy, who shot 7 under par, 63. As I mentioned, he did it in a much different way than Mackenzie Hughes. He made some 63 feet of putts. He was not, I think he was right around level on the greens, but tee to green, he was dominant. He gained, I think, 8 shots. I think it was 5 approach the green and 3 strokes off the tee. It was an impressive day tee to green for Rory. He seems to have shaken a little bit of rust off. What do you think?
Yeah, this was vintage McIlroy, and it's what we were sort of waiting for, because we documented this on this podcast that before the lockdown, before the suspension of the PGA Tour play, he was the best player in the world, and he was arguably playing the best in the world too. And so going into that break, getting away from competition, that has its effect. And he put the clubs away for a bit, and he got on the Peloton some. That has its effect too. And then you come back out, and he played some good golf, but he just stumbled when it meant something. The final round there at the Colonial, it was surprising that he did what he did with a round of a few over. And then he didn't play that well in the first day at Hilton Head. But by his own admission, he's like, he and Pete Dye golf courses have never really got along very well. And he's got to take time to figure them out, which he did at the Players' Championship at the stadium course at Sawgrass. So he figured it out pretty quickly, because he put together after that 3 rounds in the 60s. So things were going in the right direction. But to your observation, yeah, he was rust-free today. I mean, everything was there. The ball was at the right distance. The wedge play was very much on point. And the control of spin, trajectory, all those sorts of things that control distance, which is the game on the PGA Tour, they were all very much on point. So, I mean, all bodes well for McIlroy for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I would say definitely going to be a player to watch the rest of the way. I think it's a better golf course for him than the last 2 that we've seen. Another player, this guy may have had the best day of anybody. He gets into the U.S. Open. He turns 50 not long ago. He's newly 50. This is a tournament, the Travelers, where people were wondering earlier in the year when he got done with Winged Foot. This is the theory. Was he going to go to the Travelers up? I think it's 84 is the road up going up that way, or was he going to stay on 95 and go to Newport for the U.S. Senior Open? I think he made the choices kind of made for him, but heading to the Travelers looks like a pretty good move. This was a smooth round for Phil Mickelson, 6 under par, 66. The thing that I liked about this round more than anything else is it's bogey free. And when Bill can avoid big numbers and big mistakes, he's got firepower, and he still clearly has the game to go out and shoot a low number like 64.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That's a super take. The thing that I liked about the round was he started to hit some quality putts again. The first event out at Colonial, he was missing a number of putts in that sort of range where you should be making if you want to put together low scores, that sort of 5 to 7, 8 foot range. And today the putter was obliging, and he struck the ball well. I mean, he was decent off the tee, kept the ball in play, and his misses didn't cost him. And that's key around here because the rough is pretty punitive in spots. So if you're playing from the rough, you're on your back foot. But he drove the ball okay. The iron game was fine. He had a number of greens in regulation, 16, I believe. But he putted well. 28 putts in a round is sound stuff. And did he gain many strokes on the field on the greens? No. But he made putts that counted something. And you know, sometimes I wish Kyle was here because we can start losing the forest for the trees when you start to look at strokes gained this and blah 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 blah. You know, in the end, it's how you cobble together and put together a round. And he made the putts he needed to. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a good putting day, and it's something I'm convinced he's got in the back of his mind now, looking forward to more competitive golf, because clearly there's something brewing, and something positive brewing right now.
Listen, you don't have to gain strokes on the field in any specific area. Each area has to complement one another, and it's a great point you mentioned. He made the putts that he had to make. I take that with his driving accuracy too. 8 of 14 fairways. Well, that's not great, but what's the purpose of driving it? So you can hit it onto the green. And if you have a player who hits 8 fairways but is able to hit 16 greens of regulation, well, that's what matters at the end of the day. We got 16 birdie putts, and
Yeah,
a player like Phil Mickelson is going to make some of them. So
hey,
love seeing that.
that's cool. And it gets me thinking of an interaction with Phil one time. I was calling him way back. It was at La Quinta for that. It's now the American Express event. And La Quinta's single file, man. Those fairways are tight and there's houses everywhere.
Yeah.
He had 9 of 14 fairways. And I interviewed him afterwards, and he looked at me and he goes, Mark, now and we can admit that I don't drive the ball very accurately. And 9 of 14 fairways is a celebration in my household. So 8 of 14 fairways for Phil. I mean, that's good stuff. Everything was how it should be today. And I hope that he can build on this. I do.
I hope so too. And you never know what you're going to get with Phil. He's the only player we have this line that's accepted, and it's Phil is Phil. And it doesn't matter what he does. That's Phil. That's what he does. Phil is Phil. So I always enjoy that line. But rounding out this featured group was another player who seems to basically just shoot 65 every time he tees it up. Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, it's really been amazing. The consistency of his play. Leave his body, leave the distance aside. The consistency of play. Where do you think he stacks up with Rory McIlroy as far as, best player in the world right now?
Well, I don't know about best player in the world, but he's certainly probably playing the best golf in the world right now. And that's the thing. I mean, I think gone are the days of the Tiger Woods sort of era where you dominate something for a long time. I think there's going to be a bunch of hot potato with this best player in the world thing. For a while it was Brooks, and then it was Rory, and we've had Justin Rose and Justin Thomas and stuff in there. And I think I'm a believer now. And what I've seen out of him on 3 very different golf courses, he has put together the best stuff. Has he won? No. But I'll tell you what, he's winning over believers, and he's got me firmly in his camp. And to your point, he just keeps on putting up good numbers. And I look through what he did today, another round under par, another round where he's gaining strokes in every department of the game. And so, this is a recipe for success and long-term success. I've said this and I will say it again. I'm keen to see where this ends. When does he stop gaining weight? When does he stop doing 6 protein shakes a day? Because the one thing that concerns me is with the power and with the talk he's putting on himself, I don't want to speak words here, but injury becomes a thing. And so I'm keen to see now when he drops his anchor and he goes, I'm on the winning wickets. We're just going to just cruise right here for a little while and try and milk this baby as much as we can.
I'm definitely with you that injury is a risk and a concern. But it seems what I find so interesting about it is their purpose in this all is kind of to prevent injury. So I wonder what they have going on with the science and well, I guess I'll leave it at this to keep it short and sweet. I trust Bryson. every
Yeah.
step of the road, he's done things differently that people have agreed with, disagreed with, and he's succeeded at every level. So, like, what is it to say that this is the time that Bryson fails? It's a hard one for me to follow. So I'm definitely a huge fan.
You make a spectacular take there, and I'm so on board with what you said, where he has thought this through. Everything he's doing is bearing it out, and like I said, I'm a believer, and maybe we should all just sit here and just enjoy the ride and just watch the spectacle that is Bryson DeChambeau, because it's entertainment at its root, really.
This whole group was really entertainment, and they are the topic in our props game. Would you like to win $1,000?
Yes,
What if you didn't even have to put any of your own cash down?
even
Well,
better.
that's where CBS Sports has you covered with our very own golf prop game that's available at cbssports.com/golf props. That's cbssports.com/golf props. We'll have questions after every round, so you'll have 3 more opportunities to win this week. And of course, as always, terms and conditions apply. Here's the question: who will have the best round 2 score from this group? Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson, or tie? So with Phil, that third option, you get Phil or tie.
Well, after we've just been glowing about Bryson, I guess I got to stay there, right? I mean, Rory shoots 63. It's difficult to follow up very low numbers, even though he's doing everything right. So I feel like he probably stacks 66, 4 under or so on there, and he gets himself to 11. What was Bryson today?
Bryson 65 again.
Yeah, he's 5 under. I feel like he probably does 66 or 65 again. 5 under par, because all the par fives are infinitely in reach for him. He's going to have a number of wedges into these targets. So I'm going Bryson here.
I'm going Bryson too. I like what he's got going on with the putter. So I have a lot of confidence in Bryson. I have confidence in Rory too, but
Yes.
63 is it's such a good round. Bryson, where 65 for Bryson seems like an even par round where it's nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. So I think they probably end round 2 in a similar position total for the tournament, but I think Bryson's going to have the better of him. And just to give you an idea here on William Hill in that 3-ball, tomorrow's 3-ball, Rory McIlroy's at plus 125, Bryson plus 138, and Phil is plus 333. So it seems like Phil is definitely the least predictable of the bunch. So I like going Bryson, especially when you get a little better odds over Rory McIlroy. So, Mark, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Sergio Garcia. He has some interesting thoughts on the coronavirus and some great play of his own right. So stick around. But first, let's take a break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. As I mentioned, Mark, Sergio Garcia, he says, and I quote, "Whoever thought there would be 0 positive tests is living in la la land." What do you make of this whole situation? We've had a number of positive tests. We've had Brooks Koepka, his caddy, Ricky Elliott, has tested positive. Graham McDowell's caddy has tested positive. Webb Simpson has a family member at home who tested positive. Chase Koepka, out of caution because of Ricky Elliott, decides to withdraw. And Cam Champ tests positive. How are you feeling about all this?
Hey, we all know the coronavirus is catching, right? And it's highly contagious. And, you can speak of the bubble and such. And the bubble is, I must tell you, I've been on the tour, unlike a number of these folks that are writing all of these articles that are brandishing them all over the internet. I've been there, and the tour are doing a tremendous job of isolating people. But you're always going to have folks that have to get away for some reason. Like I was on the tour for 2 weeks. Now I'm off the tour for 2 weeks and working from the Golf Channel studios. I will be retested when I get back out there. But, this is sort of how things happen. And you're on airplanes and restaurants and picking up, to-go food and such like that. And so it's going to happen. But I think the management plan of it has all been good. So what Sergio says is appropriate. It's typically Sergio the way he said it. But right now, you've had I think you said it was one player and a few caddies test positive.
You've had you had Cam Champ who tested positive. You had Nick Watney, as we know, and then 2 caddies as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in the grander scheme of things, and I hate to sound trite about this, but really, as far as numbers go, with all the players playing and all the caddies and the volunteers and stuff like that over 2 weeks, it's been feasible. Now, do I want people to get sick? No. Do I want to get sick? Absolutely not. But it sort of is what it is, but the tour are doing the right thing right now.
I like the aspect of the plan. First of all, I like how they can change the plan. They can amp things up a little bit, which definitely can take a little bit of heat, but they have layers of protection here. And at some point, it's up to the players to mind for their own safety, make sure that they're taking all the precautions that they can. And if everybody does that collectively, then we have a fighting chance. So you definitely, when you're involved in it, as you have, Mark, you take a little responsibility. You make sure you wash your hands. You make sure you abide by social distancing, even though it may be your friend and of course he doesn't have it. You never know, and you have to treat every situation as serious as it is. And again, this is what we continued to say back in February when all this started. You have a responsibility for not just yourself right now, but for others. And with all the plans and protocols that we have in place, I think they're in a position to succeed. I think they're in a position to keep numbers really low. The
Mhm.
hope is nobody gets seriously ill. There's no hospitalization. I think at that point, it's another level of awakening us, so to speak.
Well, the plan, your point is well founded, and the plan has to be respected. And when you get a situation where someone, a veteran like Nick Watney, gets diagnosed with the disease, people will suddenly jump up and turn around. I can tell you, we were at the Heritage last week, and when the news of Watney broke, it was all the conversation everywhere on the premises. And because of that, there's awareness. And if there's conversation, then all of a sudden people are looking over their shoulders and just being a little bit more diligent than perhaps they were. Because, one can get lax, but now with a couple of folks and with Brooks Koepka's caddy and stuff like that, I think people will pay more attention. So, hopefully the people just abide by what the commissioner said, because he sort of dropped the hammer a little bit a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I would agree with that. To me, you make such an interesting point about once the conversation starts again, people are aware. And here in my area, and I'm in the southern part of Connecticut, but we basically had people were kind of acting very normal for a long period of time, and there were limited masks. You'd go to the gas station, and some people have masks on, most don't, and people seemed normal. Restaurants were starting to open again. Things started to feel like it was summertime again. And
Yeah.
then on Friday, there was not only the news about Nick Watney, but in the world of sports, there was all kinds of news. A fifth of the Clemson football team has tested positive. The Blue Jays have positive tests. They're shutting down spring training, and baseball has all these situations. And all of a sudden, I had to fill up my tank on the way home in the same gas station where a week before everybody's kind of a mixed bag. Everybody has a mask on and everybody is much more cautious, and you can just see the town kind of shift as the news. And so we have to keep this front of mind in order to keep this away for the long term. So it'll be interesting to see going forward. But man, it's definitely a scary situation,
Yeah, no doubt.
but they're doing everything they can. Real quick before I know we got to get going here, but what do you think of Sergio's play? You impressed with him so far?
Well, look, he played beautifully last week at Hilton Head. 3 runs, I think it was, of 65 to close there. He was in the mix.
Yeah.
When he was coming down the final, I didn't have his group. I had the Webb Simpson group. But, in my monitors, I'm hearing folks talk about Garcia, and there's another birdie and stuff. And I'm like, wow. And Sergio's the kind of guy, he's highly emotional the way he plays. And when the emotions are high, he is unbeatable. Watch him in the Ryder Cup. And when the emotions are low, he's the best at beating himself. And right now, apparently, things are going in the right direction. And this is just a continuation of what a very the kind of guy who plays a lot on confidence and momentum and stuff. It's him just doing what he normally does.
You're talking about a guy who shot 3 straight rounds of 65 and today 64. So 65, 65, 65, 64. It's pretty good. He hit 17 of 18 greens today. he was second in strokes gained tee to green, gaining a little bit over 4 strokes. It was impressive. It's fun watching that guy hit the ball. I mean, I through kind of the generation that I grew up watching, right? This we'll call it the Tiger Woods era. That's how we all know it. Sergio has been one of the more consistent ball strikers in that time, and it's great to have him back. I love watching him play. I know he kind of brings up a lot of controversy when he plays, but I love watching him play.
Okay, I'm going to date myself like I normally do. It's a tradition unlike any other on the pod. At the British Amateur, this must have been, I don't know, Garcia at that stage was about 18 or 19. I was there with
So you're
my
probably talking about 98, maybe 97 or 98.
Yeah, 97, I think it was. Good call.
Because 99 was the PGA where he was, I think he was maybe 19 running and jumping through the air with Tiger.
Might have been when he was 17, because the following year he and my brother played as a team. The European Tour used to have a teams event, and they were in contention and played in the final group with, get this, Sevi Ballesteros and Jose Maria Lozano. But anyway, so we had Royal St. George's, and I had heard a lot about the Sergio Garcia boy, and the range out there is massive. Okay, and my brother went to go hit balls the one afternoon, and Sergio was on the one side of the range, and we introduced ourselves because they'd played amateur golf, and this boy, 17, 18, whatever he was just hitting these rifle balls like straight into like a cutting wind like this, and the ball was just hitting the wind and holding the thing. And I looked at this and I sort of double took it first a few times, because I'm the kind of guy that you've got to prove it to me before I believe it. And I'd heard all the hype and stuff, but I watched him hit like 20 balls and I was transfixed. And I tell you what, he still hits the thing flush. And at his best, when it comes to ball striking, he has very few peers in the game.
I think he is probably, aside from Tiger, my favorite to watch the shot tracker with. I just love watching that ball flight. But you can watch Sergio. You can watch Rory, Bryson, Phil, all the players that we talked about today. This weekend, you can catch all the tournament action on CBS. We've got options for you to watch the Travelers Championship at TPC River Highlands. On your computer, just go to cbssports.com. On your phone, and it's totally free. You can download the CBS Sports app, and you're off and running, watching Phil Mickelson drop bombs around the golf course. You can also watch on your Roku like I do, Fire TV, Apple TV, through the CBS Sports app on those devices. So in other words, there's just no excuse. You should never, ever, ever miss a chance to watch our guy Phil on CBS this weekend. So make sure you tune in. Mark, thank you for joining us tonight. I know you got a lot going on covering the tour these days, and you're doing a marvelous job.
Thanks, bro. It's good to be with you guys. I love this podcast. I listen to it when I'm on the road to try and get the takes from all of you boys. And I don't listen to Rick's. I listen to yours. I don't listen to Rick's advice on who I should pick, but maybe I should, because I see this boy is on some sort of heater when it's coming to picking some sleepers and some winners over the last year.
Yeah, he's on 2 in a row, so we'll see what happens. And 2 good, Daniel Berger, Webb Simpson, 2 really, really good picks. So I hope you've enjoyed, and thank you for listening. And we're back here right with you after every single round of the Travelers Championship. I'm Greg DuCharme. I'm on Twitter at @TheRealGFD. That's Mark Immelman. You can get him at Mark_Immelman. That's it for the first cut. We'll see you next time.